It all started well enough. Fate was bored. Nothing funny had happened in days and it needed a laugh. When the UK's most secret research station vanished, though, it smiled. When odd things started happening to some mould and a brick, it chuckled. When it realised what was coming next, its laugh was heard across every world. It was going to be a very good week. But what was coming next? Well, imagine you wake up in a parallel world where everything looks familiar, but no one knows who you are. Worse still, you've no idea how you got there. Then you shift to another world, and another year after year, until eventually you find yourself in one where it's you who doesn't know anybody. No friends, no family, no one. Could you cope? That was what a woman called TC was about to find out. Then there were the cakes. Reality is a funny old thing. I mean, it's always the same distance between London and New York, but it still feels nearer if you're going on holiday rather than on business. But that's just different perspectives, you might say, and you'd be right. What happens though if you come across something so weird your mind refuses to accept it, even if it's right in front of you? If it's a gigantic, salivating monster ripping the roof off your house, you'd probably run like hell. On the other hand, what if the person you've been secretly in love with for years suddenly notices you? In that case, I guess you either run towards them or faint with shock. But what if the something is small? What if it's insignificant? What if it can't possibly matter, but it still bugs the hell out of you just the same? In that case, I reckon you worry. Not perhaps in the front of the mind kind of way, but more like a coffee percolator. The bubbles are barely noticeable to begin with, but as they start to heat up, they get bigger and bigger. Being something of an insomniac, Nigel Belroy was always slightly surprised to find he'd been asleep. And muttering to himself as he got out of bed one Tuesday, he threw on his dressing gown. His voice started low in tone, but rose in pitch when he became animated about something, rather like an excited puppy. A little under 6 feet tall, with eyes the colour of coffee beans and hair to match, he headed downstairs. Filling the kettle for his morning cup of tea, he wondered why some people put the milk in first, but he did the opposite. It was one of the many things in life that confused him and often led to him snatching up the phone to Google some random fact or other. His best friend Jenny supposed it was something about him being a writer, although his grandmother regarded his chosen profession as tantamount to being a layabout. If she hadn't thought that, though, she might never have called him up. She might never have rung him when his cousin vanished, and the adventure might never have begun. Jennifer Stevens, or Jenny as she liked to be called, loved detective stories, so no Jodie Picoult or Jane Austen for her. Instead, her Kindle was full of Lee Child, John le Carre, and even oldies like Agatha Christie. Almost 30, 5'5" tall, Jenny was 2 years younger and 5 inches shorter than her best friend Nigel. With shoulder-length auburn hair and bottle-green eyes, she was attractive too, and her voice just added to the overall effect. Soft, lyrical, with a hint of Scotland to it, it was like a breeze in the treetops. She could even turn heads in the hideous purple tunic she had to wear for work, as when Jenny wasn't involved in her favourite pastime of annoying Nigel, she could be found in the DIY superstore in nearby Redditch. It had started out as a job purely to pay the bills, and today, somewhat to her surprise, she'd been put in charge of the paints department. At 32, David Marston wasn't the youngest person ever to hold the rank of group captain, but at 6'2", with blonde hair and eyes that matched the blue-grey of his uniform, he made a striking figure. He'd joined the Royal Air Force after university, going straight to Cranwell Officer Training College, where he came first in his class. Then, when the top brass RAF Whitton approached him, David leapt at the chance. He knew it by reputation, as home of the Joint Force Intelligence Group and the National Centre for Geospatial Intelligence, so it was an easy decision. Careers move on though, and now he had his first base command post. OK, so it was at Crianloch, deep in the Highlands of Scotland, rather than Lossiemouth, as he told his family. But he could get round that. Walking across the field was a woman of average height, who on closer inspection showed to be in her early 30s, with dark curly hair and brown eyes. She was wearing glasses and a frown. The drone had been airborne for almost 20 minutes, and once she landed it safely, she opened her laptop. She grimaced as it pinged into life. And with that cue, I should explain her relationship with technology. By landed safely, for example, I mean the drone didn't actually break when she let it drop like a stone for the last 6 feet. And by relationship, I mean the sort you have with a sister you can't stand, but who you still have to put up with at family parties. To put it kindly, Liz had something of an on-off relationship with technology. In reality, she was yet to have an on day, but the technology lived in hope. And as if that wasn't enough, David wasn't returning her calls, and she was starting to get worried. In the offices of the Northern Echo, Erica McBride is scouring the web. Fair-skinned, dark eyes, and with hair the colour of an old-fashioned phone box, she was looking for weird stories to fill her weekly column, Erica's Oddities. The previous week had been a good one with the piece about the tangoing penguins, and she was hunting around for a worthy follow-up when the email pinged into her inbox. I say the email rather than an email, because unlike most, it was one of those few that make you sit up and pay attention. You know, the sort of thing, maybe you got the concert tickets you wanted, your exam results came in, or perhaps you'd been accepted onto that fish juggling course you'd applied for. Whatever generally counted as big for Erica, though, this one was more than that. She didn't know it yet, but this one was going to change her life. And last but not least, the central character of Entanglement's parallel storyline. No one noticed TC much as a child. Her parents loved her. She had a fair share of friends, but she was nothing out of the ordinary. She didn't excel at sport, she was an average pupil, and although she took piano lessons, the music she played was, at best, accurate. She had 2 pet rabbits called Bill and Ben, half a dog called Amber, and anyone she allowed into her room found the floor covered in clothes. The walls were very much her too, which at 6 years old meant posters of unicorns. At 10 that changed to ponies, and from 12 onwards it became a succession of boy bands, with a few photos of kittens thrown in for good measure. She was loved, she was liked, and her best friend thought she was ace. But extraordinary? Not really. Then there were the cakes.